There's part of me that thinks Icelanders might not be the brightest of people. I mean, look at this place. It's mostly made up of barren, volcanic rock that belches, pushing the foul smell of sulfur throughout the countryside. Animals and plants have avoided this cold, hard land.
Iceland is one of the most geologically active places on Earth. On average, there's a volcanic eruption every 4 to 5 years. The eruption in March is much less destructive than some of the previous ones. It is also accessible to the public, with only an easy drive and a relatively short hike from the country's capital.
I think in some ways we can call this the perfect tourist eruption. I mean, the lava is not going very far. It seems to pile up here in this valley, and it's fairly easy walk for most people. The concerns are really about the gas. Like, everybody coming here has to make a decision for themselves if it's a wise day to go hiking or not, depending on how the winds are blowing. And if the winds are not blowing at all, then people need to keep away from the lows in the landscape.
It's breathtaking. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. You can feel the warmth of the lava up here, so even though it's, it's quite cold, but you just go a little bit closer to the lava and then you're immediately warm again.
It's amazing, it's like nothing else. It's like we've never seen anything like this.
It's kind of intense, it's really warm if you go close, and it's awesome.
Already thousands of people have flocked out here to see the eruption for themselves. These are mostly local people, as the pandemic has pretty much put a lid on tourism. One can only imagine how packed the place would be if this would be happening in a world not plagued by the coronavirus. In fact, many are hoping that the eruption will be beneficial advertisement for the country when tourism resumes.
It's like the most touristy attraction in the world. We were actually discussing it just earlier.
So you think it's going to attract a lot of tourists to come to Iceland?
I hope so.
I hope so. It's good for Iceland.
How long do we expect this to be going on?
We have no idea. I guess that's the most honest answer. But I mean, the eruptions on Reykjavík Peninsula, they have usually only been for a few weeks, few days, few weeks. So it's quite possible that we are now entering a period of recurrent activity, volcanic activity. And actually this is what we've been seeing. So even though there's only one eruption, we've been seeing repeated magmatic intrusions in different locations on the Reykjavík Peninsula.
Humans are a stupid yet wonderfully determined species. We often live where we're not welcome. Over the last 100 years, Icelanders found a way not just to survive, but to thrive. They became some of the world's best fishermen. They invented their ways out of problems. And they even found a way to turn their love of sagas A 100 years ago, Iceland lumbered along as one of the poorest countries in Europe. Then, during the Second World War, its fishermen took great risks, sailing through minefields, dodging warships and submarines to feed the continent. Riches poured in, and the country industrialized and modernized within a couple of decades. I've traveled to the fishing village of Grindavik on the country's southwest shore to see just how far Iceland's fishing industry has come. Boats arrive here every morning, packed full of cod and redfish, and then get transported to nearby processing plants. Inside one of these plants sits the most advanced fish slicing gear on the planet. It's a machine made by the Icelandic tech giant Marel, and it uses algorithms to carve up the fillets that end up on your plate. Meet the FlexiCut. First, it x-rays the fish to spot bones, and then a water jet slices the fish with great precision. Dozens of programs run on the machine to slice the fish just as customers want. If Tony Stark wanted to make fish sticks, this would be his machine.
Be able to see the fillet and cut it each time and every time the same.
When you're doing the X-ray, what is the software doing?
We are calculating exactly how to cut because you are doing a tilt on the water jet, so you need to be very accurate.
And at 50 fish per minute, how quickly is it making that decision?
We have less than a second to take the picture, estimate, and cut. That is usually a worry when you have technology replacing manual work. We say we are actually creating technological jobs instead.
Perhaps, with a bit of luck, a human touch will be required for the fishy leftovers that Morel hopes to process next.
There's a lot to gain still. I think we haven't even started to explore the value of byproducts of the seafood.
Icelanders. As if a wholesome fish diet wasn't enough, they go about their daily lives secure in the knowledge that 100% of their country's energy is renewable. Partly thanks to this stuff. Iceland has turned its volcanoes into allies, tapping geothermal pockets to heat homes and water, and using hydroelectric dams for electricity. This energy self-sufficiency is key to Iceland's prosperity. Some clever engineers have created a funky, rugged wind turbine. It'll be used in Iceland to power isolated summer homes and remote industrial equipment, and to bring green energy to rural areas overseas. Back in downtown Reykjavík, there's smaller versions of this sitting on top of a bus stop. They're powering a Wi-Fi base station, an advertising board, and a smartphone recharging station. In an industrial suburb on the edge of Reykjavík, a company called Icewind has set up shop in an abandoned coal power plant to build these turbines by hand. It's run by Thor, the company's business chief, and C. Thor, a former nuclear engineer.
This type of turbine is called the Savonius vertical axis wind turbine.
In case you missed it, that would be a Savonius vertical axis wind turbine, for all you turbine noobs out there.
Technically, it's an old technology. I mean, it dates back to the Persian Empire or something. We have taken this base design and kind of brought it to the modern age with modern materials, carbon fiber, stainless steel. We've made it really, really strong. We have engineered and cut the blades so that the turbine never goes on overspin. And we just done the system so it's really, really simple, and therefore we can keep the price down, but it also can take really, really harsh weather.
And weather is a serious problem. This is what can happen to a conventional wind turbine when excessive wind speeds hit. In Iceland, windmills can last for about 3 years before the weather does them in. The shape of the ice wind turbines allows them to function in low wind and to stop from spinning out of control in high wind. They just look cool.
They just think it's a sculpture or something. They're not thinking about this as an ugly energy production device.
Icewind has trials running throughout this country and expects to begin selling its turbines worldwide later this year. Thor is anxious to test out Iceland's ingenuity on a bigger stage. Iceland still depends heavily on geothermal power. Sorry, Thors. These types of power plants are so prevalent that Iceland turned one of them into its biggest tourist attraction. an hour's drive south of Reykjavík, a man-made giant hot tub, smack in the middle of a lava field, fed by mineral-rich wastewater that starts 2,000 meters below the Earth's surface and then gets processed by a nearby power station and fed into the lagoon. You remember that volcano that erupted in 2010? The one with the name no one could pronounce? Well, it was a blessing in disguise for the country. That eruption gave Iceland some serious brand recognition with tourists. Iceland's tourism industry is growing 30% per year, with 1.5 million people visiting in 2015. This boom of tourists has helped the country climb out of the economic ruin caused by the 2008 financial crisis. This is Arctic Trucks, a one-of-a-kind body shop based in Reykjavík that converts trucks into super trucks that can take on just about anything.
I want to show you this room with the tires.
This operation is the brainchild of Emil Grimson.
So this will have 46-inch tires. It's quite big.
46-inch tires,
Yeah.
okay. So you have to extend the body. It's a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Emil and his crew rip the trucks apart, stretch them, harden the underbody and axles. Then they put on these massive tires, which can be deflated quickly for better traction on the snow. Nerds, thousands of them, make an annual pilgrimage to Reykjavík to celebrate EVE Online, a massive multiplayer online game that takes place in outer space. For 3 days, the gamers come together, dress up like their favorite characters, shop from an endless supply of swag.
We should buy one of these.
And get a sneak peek of what's on the horizon. There's also a massive live tournament to decide who will become one of the main rulers of the EVE universe.
Where we shall coronate our new leader, and the losers shall ritually sacrifice themselves.
It's not going to last for much longer here.
Trading blow for blow here in the final match tonight.
The captain goes down.
And the winners are Tess Merkel!
At its most basic level, EVE Online is a war game set in space. People build their characters from scratch, hop in ships like this, band together by the thousands to form armies, and fight battles that can take months, even years. EVE got its start back in 2003, and today, it's evolved into a vast universe, nearly as rich and complex as the real world, with a completely developed political system and social hierarchy. There's a complex economy, too, based on billions of transactions and lots of manual labor. Before players can zoom off to battle, they must spend weeks mining materials to build ships and weapons. This Titan is one of the largest class ships. It can take 6 weeks to make and is over 8.5 miles long. Coalitions spend years obtaining their space gear, and they can lose it all with one bad decision.
There's nothing like losing about 6,000 real-world dollars in virtual equipment, in the blink of an eye.
Most games of this type split people up into groups of a couple thousand players and give everyone missions to accomplish. Not EVE. From the outset, it's been a game where all of the players inhabit a single universe, and they collectively decide how the game should be played. This makes EVE a never-ending story, a spectacular communal experience.
So all 400,000 some odd people who play this game, we are playing together. You get to know the same people, and we have space celebrities, we have space politicians. People know who they are.
If you're a hero or a villain in EVE, 500,000 people know your name, know your reputation, and will either try to take you down or follow you, as a result of that.
I got hostiles inbound. What's your status?
Lots of games offer people an escape, but none more so than EVE. The placid become great warriors, the shy turn into socialites. EVE is about becoming something bigger, or at least different than what you are in real life.
There will
be consequences.